Who doesn't love the Mr. Men? The series of weird talking shaped people based off various traits. While simple, they do have a lot of charm. For those of you who don't know what the Mr. Men series is, it's a children's book franchise created by the late Roger Hargreaves in the 70s. He initially came up with the idea when his son Adam Hargreaves, who took over writing the books after his father's passing, asked what a tickle looked like. He decided to make a story about a little orange man with long arms that loves to tickle. And alas, the iconic series was born. Roger would later create more Mr. Men characters based on even more traits, and added the Little Misses in the 80s to mix things up. There's at least over 83 characters as of now. If you grew up in Britain in like the 80s up until literally last decade, you've at least heard of the Mr. Men franchise, seeing how much of an icon they've become. Not just in the UK as well, but in various places around the globe, selling over 100 million copies of the books worldwide. For a franchise this big, it only makes sense that there will be cartoon adaptations, and that's what I'll be talking about today. And also, seeing as this franchise is turning 50 this year, it only makes sense to share my passion for it. Though spoiler alert, it's mostly going to be on the Mr. Men show. Before I get into the show, I have to talk about the dubs. While the Mr. Men books and brand is a British property, this particular cartoon was written and produced in America. For some reason in the UK they have a trend of getting American shows, or Canadian in some cases, and dubbing them with British voice actors even though the show's already in English. This mostly happens with preschool shows, but it's still pretty weird that they do this, since it's essentially kind of useless and it makes searching for a version of a show you prefer confusing. And you guys aren't safe either. There's useless American dubs of British shows as well. That being said, I'm gonna use the UK dub in this video. Yes, I know that the US version is the original, and the majority of the fandom prefer it, but I just hold too much nostalgia and memories for the UK one, because it's the version I grew up with. And I actually think that the majority of the voices fit to the characters better, and are more funny. And it also comes with better quality footage. But Miss Anne, you're biased. You only like the UK dub better because you're British. Well, yeah, I'm not denying that. Since the show is basically ran by its characters, I think the best way for me to go through this review is to go through each character and give my opinions on them. All you need to know beforehand is that the Mr. Men and Little Miss characters live in a fictional town named Dillydale, and every episode centres around their antics based on a particular theme, or based on whatever the episode's theme is, like food, cinema, beach, night, etc. So let's start.
Did a clown just run past me? It's Miss Calamity!
Now Miss Calamity is an interesting case. She's an original character that was made specifically for the show, and she is completely unlucky and prone to catastrophes.
This is not good at all. Help! Oh, what a calamity.
She is a part of a group I like to dub as short end of the stick characters, which are characters in this show that can never catch a break. Any situation or scene that they're in will almost end badly for them, no matter what. And Miss Calamity is a prime example of this. I mean, they put her house on the edge of a cliff, for fuck's sake.
Hello, Miss Calamity. What you doing?
I'm sinking.
Ooh, that sounds like fun.
Heck, she's so unlucky that she got removed from the show entirely after the first season. I'm not kidding. Apparently the production team behind the show didn't like her, so that's why she got booted. They never specified why they didn't like her, they just didn't like her, I guess. Just poof, gone. I mean, she's fine as a character, though I do feel like her role is a bit too similar to Mr. Bump. But I can't help but feel sorry for her. And now she'll never be seen in another Mr. Men themed thing again, because like I said, she was originally made for the show, not from the books. They did reference her in that one season 2 episode as a statue. Well, that's about it. What an unlucky ending for an unlucky little miss.
I can't hear you!
Mr. Noisy is, loud. I don't really have much to say about him. His design's pretty much the same as his book, and he's just fine. Though, his segments do make for some good earring material.
Hoping to find a book on...
Mr. Pernickety! This is a library, ass!
But I am looking for specific...
If I have to break the rules for you, I'll have to break them for everyone!
But
You have left me no choice, Mr. Pernickety! I'm afraid
I have to ask you to leave! Next!
Be careful, he has a hoe.
Mr. Nervous is another interesting case because he seemingly seems to be another new character, but in fact he was based off of Mr. Jelly from the books, which was renamed to Mr. Nervous in the US. He basically has the same cowardly and anxious traits that he does. He's just now an anxious grape instead of jelly. And I honestly love him. He has these scenes where he imagines things that are way worse and terrifying than they actually are. Other times he's in genuinely terrifying moments. But most of the time he'll be scared of something basic. Like that one time he called the police over a garden gnome.
Just make him go away.
It's only a statue.
I'm not going anywhere near that wannabe elf. He could be dangerous. Please, make him leave.
I love his voice as well. It's so cute and fitting for him, and I love how it sometimes goes high pitch and breaks at times.
Oh, please, Mr. Happy, you don't want to make her angry.
What are you afraid of?
Almost everything. No.
What is the matter?
I think my beans are ticking. Let it be noted, I, Mr. Nervous, being of sound mind.
There, Mr. Nervous, the splinter is out.
It is?
Doesn't that feel better?
Yes.
He actually has the same voice actor as Zigzoo from True Fu Tom, which is a catch that literally no one else cares about but me, so I'll move on.
I was never really afraid of a silly little splinter. I know, maybe if I tighten it up a bit and add another spring.
When you shrink, does your happiness shrink too?
Miss Sunshine was a childhood favourite of mine since her book was the first Little Miss book I ever read, and I loved her ever since, her book and her show version. But I do have to admit now that there are more characters I like better than her. But she still has some funny moments since she acts so obliviously dopey. It just makes it so hilarious to see.
Good morning, Dillydale. I'm Mr. Happy.
And I'm Miss Sunshine. At least that's what everyone tells me.
Yes, we do.
Gosh, Mr. Grumpy, I'm sorry you haven't sold any books. I suppose no one's interested in your life story. Not one single person. Must make you feel rather bad, Yes! I get to be tied up.
Excuse me, the fuck did you just say?
I do appreciate her for the nice memories, though I'm pretty sure she's just on something half the time.
Milk jug, ordinary string, cardboard tubes, and buttons! I love buttons! Love 'em, love 'em, love 'em!
Oh! Then you love what?
Ooh, ouchie!
But I don't know, at least she seems somewhat sane and her happiness can be cute. Unlike some other characters.
You certainly are!
I get to be tied.
But if you must, there's a waste receptacle right behind you.
Now it's time for Mr. Fussy. Wait, Mr. Pernickety? Or Persnickety if you're American. For some reason they changed Mr. Fussy's name to Pernickety in this show for, I don't know why. Maybe it sounded more fancy? According to Google, it's meant to be a slang term, but it's the most posh thing I've ever heard. They changed it back to Fussy in Season 2 anyway, so I'm just going to call him that. Mr. Fussy's design is pretty similar to his book, but they made him look more refined and sophisticated. And he's yet another short end of the stick character. Like, I get that he's a snotty fusspot, but my god, you can't help but feel bad for him. Mr. Fussy doesn't like to get scruffy. Let's dunk as much rubbish on him as possible. Mr. Fussy wants to try something he likes. Let's find a way to spoil it for him or break it. Mr. Fussy wants to perform his heart out with his piano. Let's interrupt his concert and make everyone boo him for stuff that was out of his control.
Thanks a lot for ruining my belly, Mr. Fussy.
No! Bats!
I get that he's meant to be like a stuck-up person, but there's just not enough balance between him being a stuck-up bloke and his karma.
Sweet apple strudel, my sculpture. Fussy a la pasta is ruined. Wow.
And honestly, I like Mr. Fussy's snottiness. He just oozes shade with every line he utters, and it's so funny. The fancy German accent helps a lot with this as well.
I think this tie is trying to choke me.
I understand the urge. Now, my deliciously fresh loaf of bread has been reduced to common toast. I am most displeased.
Wait for me!
If you think I am leaving behind these green olives, you are mistaken.
And that one scene where Mr. Fussy and his friends go to a mud bath trip and they subvert your expectations by making Mr. Fussy actually enjoy it, like an activity that involves dirt and he likes it. That was nice.
Get up and dance while Mr. Messy busts a mad, sick rhyme.
There's a waste receptacle right behind you.
Stop singing!
Probably the most iconic Little Miss next to Miss Sunshine, who, just like her, pretty much has the same design as her book counterpart. She's a blabbering chat box that can make a convo ring on for a long time. They make for some decently funny moments, but there's nothing to write home about.
Do you ever stop
Stop what?
talking?
You're so silly, Mr. Stubborn.
Stop singing!
Am I glad to see you, Miss Sunshine? But it's hard to keep up with the daughters.
Mr. Lazy had one of the more drastic redesigns in the show. I know a fair few people don't like the show version of Mr. Lazy, but I honestly think it reflects his character and personality way better. Book Lazy just looks like a floppy piece of pork in comparison. His silhouette is also too similar to Mr. Uppity as well. As you'd expect, he's extremely lazy. Even the most simplistic tasks are too much work for him. So instead, he compensates by using machinery and robots to do all of his work for him. Which, now that I think about it, would actually take way more time and effort to build and assemble. That's his logic.
Can't do, Miss Calamity. Today is mix-it-yourself day. The machine's over there.
Oh dear, I'm not very good with machinery.
I'm not very good with anything that involves work.
Enjoy seeing a film about superheroes.
It's not about superheroes. It's a comedy about a turtle and a toad who win the lottery. Hello, Miss Calamity.
Can I help you?
Yeah. Do you have any candy floss? Do you know how much work it is to push this little button right here?
Honestly, I can relate to Mr. Lazy a lot when it comes to doing my projects. I'm always like, wait, what do you mean I have to actually put effort and work into this? No thanks. His voice is so fitting as well. He's just so tired and done with everything.
Cherry or watermelon?
Oh, this choosing is too much work. Just surprise me. Oh, great. My monkey's quit.
Isn't it amazing?
This magic is pretty fun. I like the scenes she's in because it's so nice to see her cast spells to varying results, I'll admit. And her catchphrases.
Isn't it amazing?
And
sometimes my magic surprises even me.
Are so fun to quote. She's just a fun character. Her design is similar to her book version, but they gave her a more modern magician-esque twist. I love both versions of her, and she's actually the only character where I prefer her original US voice to her UK. I just think it sounds cuter there.
Oh, I think I've got it this time. Zara-zee! Enjoy your dinner. I love it when she does that.
Oh, I was sure it was a banana.
I lumped these two together because they both only have one speaking role in the entire show. They are part of the extra book characters that were added for season 2, but I guess the writers couldn't think of any situations where they could be the main characters, so they're just in the background half the time. Mr. Tall's appearance in the show isn't that memorable, seeing as they basically gave him nothing to work with, but I actually like what they did with Miss Curious in her one scene. She asked questions that should be obvious to the beholder, basically calling them out. I like how her hair looks like a question mark, and the voice they gave her is really cute as well.
Why did you drive into that tree after Mr. Happy said you wouldn't fit?
Will somebody take her away?
Mr. Happy. Well, I'm a part-time firefighter.
A character that just laughs all the time? There can't be anything interesting about that.
Try way!
Oh no, she's adorable.
Okay.
Honestly, the Little Miss Giggles scenes are surprisingly enjoyable to me. For a character that's only trait is that she laughs a lot, her scenes have so much gold in them. I especially love the ones where she runs some sort of help service, but is too busy laughing to hear what the person's query is.
Hi there, Gunk and Goo Hotline.
There's goo gurgling up from all my drains. This is no laughing matter, Miss Giggles. I need you to send out a plumber right away. Are you even listening to me?
Hey there, Mr. Grumpy. Miss Giggles said you had a problem.
She reminds me of me whenever I make my Crimes Against Humanity edits.
Okay.
Cowabunga, dudes!
Mr. Strong was another character that had a major redesign. But to be honest, I kind of prefer his book look. There's just something about this red cube that's abnormally strong that's just visually funny to me. In this show they kind of just made him look generic, or, I mean, can shapes not be generic, but like, jock-like, you know? Looks aside, Mr. Strong just kind of destroys everything, not knowing his own strength. And he could probably break the entirety of Dillydale if he could. He doesn't stick out to me too much with intention, but his voice is so stupid that I can't help but laugh whenever he opens his mouth.
Oh, hey, Finnegan, you're gonna love this salad. It's got lettuce, carrots, celery. Oh, don't worry, I do the same thing. Yeah, oh boy, are we high.
Yes, good thing we have this safety bar holding us in.
What, you mean this thing?
Cause the news is out that there's a pair of surfing kings. You'll never see a wave that we're not conquering.
Oh, pickles.
Shut up! Take that stupid smile off your face, you silly girl.
Despite being the first Little Miss ever made, Miss Bossy isn't as well known / iconic compared to her peers. Which is a shame because, oh, do I like her. She's stern, she's strict, she doesn't put up with anyone's shit. If she wants something, she'll do anything to get what she wants. And it's just such a joy to watch.
Move your car.
Why?
It's blocking my driveway.
That is not my problem.
Miss Chatterbox, give me your mobile. Stop laughing.
Her voice is so fitting as well. This girl means business. She literally lives in a military base house.
Hey, I'm the boss around here, and I'm telling you to move the car!
But she can be nice when needed, so she's not a complete wet blanket. Honestly, what a queen.
I've got to tell you, Mr. Messy, that song was pretty good.
Thanks, Miss Bossy. You think I can have me show back?
Oh, okay. But I get to keep the cowbell. Oh, Mr. Bump, it'll be over before you know it.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Ah, Mr. Bump. Poor Mr. Bump. He's the poster boy of the short end of the stick characters. His entire existence is based off getting bumped and injured all the time, which is why he has permanent bandages on. He gets hurt all the time in the books, but the show cranks it up to 11. Chased by crocodiles? Check. Run over by vehicles? Check. Nearly drowned at sea? Check. Dropped from a plane with no parachute? You bet. Getting impaled by a flipping clock hand? Like, he could have died.
See, Mr. Bump? All it needed was a good tickle.
And there's so many more examples throughout the show. Like I admit, some of them are pretty funny.
Why be a canary instead of a canary?
But oh my, you just have to feel bad for him. He can't even escape being hurt in the theme song, which now that I think about it, just seems like Mr. Tickle going out of his way to mess with everyone, including him, causing Mr. Bump's demise.
Mayday! Mayday! In other words, help!
Oh, I'll never learn. Yikes!
Now remember, don't pull your parachute release too quickly, or else it might get tangled up and you'll drop like a rock!
You see, the joke is that her name is Miss Helpful, but she's not helpful at all. What a riot! Obvious sarcasm there.
Wait! You can't leave! I've got to bandage your finger!
But it was only a splinter.
I'm just trying to be helpful, Mr. Lazy.
You want me to bring these sleepers over to there?
Exactly.
Do you need me to bring a saw, or a spade, or maybe a pair of goggles?
No thank you, Miss Helpful.
There are some differences between her book and show design, but they do look visually similar, though I do prefer her old shoes. But yeah, that's pretty much the joke for almost every scene she's in. It gets kind of old and it isn't as funny compared to some other segments. But Miss Helpful does mean well, so I don't mind her that much, I guess.
Sorry about that, Mr. Bump. I must have been listening to the wrong track. Do you need any lip gloss, Mr. Bump?
No.
Just me.
I'm a trained professional.
I don't like Miss Whoops. I'm sorry, I know there's some people in the fandom that like her, but oh my god, she irritates me so much. You know all the short end of the stick characters. She's pretty much the reason why they go through so much shit 90% of the time. Like, the joke is that she's a trained professional and knows what she's doing with machinery and all that. But she always has accidents that make things go wrong for other people, never her.
My mirror!
Oh well.
Whoops. Help?
Oh, crooked cucumbers!
I hate how she speaks like she knows what she's doing, and her dumbass walk cycles. All like, what is that?
Whoops. Good thing there's an emergency brake. Double whoops.
And they seem less like accidents when it happens every time she's on screen. Like, sometimes the scene won't even have her in the first place, but then boom, out of nowhere, she's just here with her fucking, like, steamroller to crush something or someone.
This car is a rare antique, and as such, I treat it with the utmost of care. My car is splattered. Some signs alert us to danger on the road, or warn us not to enter, or tell us when we're going the wrong way on a one-way street.
Like we're doing right now.
And poor Mr. Bump has to deal with the worst of it, considering that she's his sister. Every scene where the two are together, you know exactly how it's going to end. You can tell Mr. Bump doesn't like working with her at all.
Any questions?
Not at all. Seems simple enough.
I have a question. Can I work in a different part of the factory?
Tyre looks like it's a little flat. Whoops. What are you doing up there?
Miss Whoops, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to get some rest now.
Keep in mind I'm only talking about show Miss Whoops. I actually don't mind her book counterpart, since most of the accidents she causes are at the extent of her and not others, and she gets on quite well with Mr. Bump and relate to each other. The main problem is that she never has anything happen to her, while some other characters go through so much crap just for existing. But yeah, moving on.
I've got disco dairy fever!
Another interesting case. Mr. Scatterbrain is actually a gender-bent redesign of Little Miss Scatterbrain from the books, and his voice is the same as the US version of the show. He's a lovable, goofy guy that's the epitome of randomness. He honestly makes for the best visual gags in the show.
Something doesn't look right here.
It's funny to see how he gets on people's, mostly Mr. Grumpy's, nerves.
Oh, suit on my head. Grrr.
Oh, let them take it. It gives them something to do.
My suitcase.
How would you like to come for a ride in our boat?
Oh, indeed I would. Mr. Scatterbrain, you're a lifesaver.
And you're a backing singer.
My friend once said that he sounds a bit like King Candy from Wreck-It Ralph, and now I can't unhear it.
There you are. Hello.
Now, the main question is Mr. Scatterbrain an omnipotent god that can bend reality? I'll have to get back to you on that.
So that's where I put Mr. Missy.
Hey, Mr. S, I was starting to think you'd never bring me back. See you later.
Surprise again!
I want to go home.
Mr. Quiet's the only self-aware character in the show. He's the only one that seems to call out everything that's wrong or bad in a situation, but no one ever listens to him because they can't hear him. You can tell that he's just done with everyone's shit.
Well, I think it's rubbish, and I'm sure Quiet agrees with me, don't you, Mr. Quiet?
I kind of like it.
See? He hates it as well.
This is a library where people come for peace and quiet, not endless chatter.
Go away!
His design's pretty much the same as his book, but they change him from this weird yellowy, greeny kind of colour to a nice baby blue. I consider Mr. Quiet to be another short end of the stick character because he's always getting ignored, interrupted, and sometimes even hurt, but not to the extent as Mr. Bump. Just let him meditate in peace for fuck's sake.
Bubbles.
I honestly think he's adorable and deserves way, way, way better. They should have put Miss Shy in the show so he could have someone to relate to, and also because those two are adorable in the books.
Boing! Boing! Up we go! Boing! Whee!
There's not really much to say about Mr. Bounce. The name says it all. He's made out of elastic, so the moment he hits any surface with the slightest bit of force, he's taken off to the skies. His design is identical to his book, and he has a cute voice, especially when he says his catchphrase.
Hello. Goodbye.
How do they feel?
Well, like ukuleles, which I never learned to play.
But that's about it. Though if it weren't for his elasticity, I'd say he'd just be as injured and abused as Mr. Bump. This girl is weird. She basically loves anything related to fear. She lives in a haunted mansion and owns a bunch of masks to scare people. Especially Mr. Nervous.
Oh, watch out, Mr. Nervous. Don't fall out now. Wow, look at that loose bolt.
She basically loves any situation where she can find that thrilling rush. And if there's certain death or terror, she's in.
Whoa, Nelly!
This is great. Close your eyes and repeat after me. Manna, 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 manna.
Oh, that was fantastically frightening! I love it!
Her design's the same as her book version. The only difference here is that she's now regular size instead of tiny. I didn't think much of her when I first saw this show, but she's really grown on me. I like the chaotic and crazy energy she gives off, and she reminds me a lot of Hard Henry. I like how they also sometimes give her a pink tutu to wear. She's probably the least feminine Little Miss out there, so it's a nice juxtaposition. My only gripe with Miss Scary is her voice. She changed voice actors in the second season, and it really shows. It sounds like her voice actor's having a hard time pulling it off, and it can make scenes with her distracting to watch.
What if a sea monster rises from the ocean and I miss it because I can't see around those rocks?
Face it, Mr. Bump. I'm an expert on anything scary. I love fear.
Her season 1 voice sounds a bit weird as well, but I definitely prefer it. I mean, there's some season 2 episodes where her voice actually sounds kind of good, and oh my god. There's this one song in the Goo episode called Space Goo that she sings, and she sounds so good. And that's season 2 Scary's voice actor. Like, the song is so good. It's like what happened? Why does it sound good there? But then after the scene afterwards, it's just like back to her normal voice. But that song's just so good. Like, what happened? Irish Scary's still best Scary though.
It's beyond fatuous.
Whoa, how did that happen? That was supposed to be for Mr. Messy!
Mr. Messy's a cool guy. Like his name suggests, he's really messy and dirty. His home has laundry everywhere and he rarely cleans, and poor Mr. Fussy, who he's neighbours with, normally deals with the worst of his antics. Though it is cute when Mr. Messy calls him Mr. P in the first season, though.
Mr. Messy! Sorry, Mr. P, but I get extra messy when I'm scared.
Despite that and times where he does stuff that is questionably disgusting, like, do you really need to store old cheese in your socks? Mr. Messy is still a chill character, and he hosts some of the show's best songs.
Uh-oh, here it comes again. The beat is taking over and it's got the Mr. Man calling out all you dance floor whizzes. It's time to start the boogie like they groovy little misses. What makes you boogie? What makes you move? What makes you shake it up while you're getting down to groove? Yeah, baby.
And unlike certain other characters, he at least tries to better himself, to little success.
All I ask is that you respect my sense of cleanliness.
Oh, I respect it. I just don't understand it.
Oh, when will I learn?
You sure you don't want some tuna fish? It's a long walk back to town, and you're gonna need your strength.
What kind of person keeps a fish in a sock?
And he gets a tad bit of karma, like that one time he became clean.
This isn't right.
Mr. Messy, you're clean.
His design is really satisfying as well. It's pretty much the same as his book, but they made him more solid, which is easier on the eyes, and to animate. His shape is just so him and unique, and I like how his arms were dacked into his, afro. Yeah, let's go with that. Also, both him and Mr. Fussy have the same voice actor, which, like, I know this show has a lot of voice actors voicing the same characters, but those guys are just so different personality and voice-wise, it's pretty impressive. And it also means that they're talking to themselves in every scene they're in.
Oh, thank you. I have never had such marvelous service. Delicious.
Don't forget tap, tap,
This used to be my favorite show.
There you go.
Then I went off it.
She turned me into a pussycat. Worse yet, she made me French.
Ah, Mr. Rude. Probably the most hated character from what I remember. To be honest, I don't find him that bad. The main problem with him is that the main punchline to a lot of his scenes are fart jokes. Yeah. It's not like I'm grossed out by them, but it's just cheap humour. Like, it can mess with the flow of the scene as well.
I'll give you inappropriate. Don't you dare!
But he is called Mr. Rude, so I guess you'd expect that. I don't dislike him at all, because unlike some other characters, he sometimes gets a bit of karma at the end for his actions at times. Though not enough, I'd say. And there are parts where he's actually pretty funny.
I need a birthday present for Mr. Grumpy.
Then I've just the thing!
Wonderful! He'll hate it. I'll take it! You there, librarian.
His design is similar to his book version, but they ditched the top hat. And like Mr. Scatterbrain, his voice is the same as the US version. The only characters from the American version that they kept their voices for are Mr. Rude and Scatterbrain. I wonder what they're trying to tell us there. That's a joke, please, no. I'm joking. Maybe they just kept it because they made him French.
Why, that's just a raw potato, Mr. Rude. The customer wants it cooked and mashed. Oh, that's disgusting, Mr. Rude.
I'll show you disgusting.
Cheers!
I do hope you're not trying to be funny.
Mr. Funny is a goofy little clown guy. He aims to make everyone around him smile and happy. His design is pretty similar to his book, but with a few minor differences. One big change they did do with Mr. Funny, however, in the show, is that they made him mute, meaning that all of the scenes he's in are based on silent comedy. I like how they decided to change up the comedy style like this, and his moments are pretty charming to see, but that's just about it.
In case you come upon any low tree branches, and this one activates the... Got it? I'll take that as a yes.
Oh, and over there is an apple core. Very funny nose.
Mr. Nosy and Mr. Small are completely different and unrelated characters in the books. Mr. Small got redesigned into a posh orange egg with a lovely top hat, and Mr. Nosy's design had a complete overhaul. Maybe they didn't want something so phallic looking, I guess, and his new shape does kind of resemble a nose. The reason why I lumped these two together is, well, that's what the show does. They made them into best friends that live together, and honestly, despite those two being the most random pair to put together, I'm so glad they did because they're so cute.
Splendid! Sharing a meal with good company is always a delight.
I love their dynamic. Mr. Small is this gentlemanly chap that's a midget but has a really fancy accent that goes good tidings and great McDillicuddy.
I thought you might enjoy a little hot cocoa. Emphasis on little. Good tidings. My associate and I were hoping you could suggest an all-you-can-eat restaurant. Nothing too expensive, preferably with booster seats. Great McGillicuddy! You have a fish on the line! Reel it in, Mr. Stubborn! Reel it in!
While Mr. Nosy is this bigger guy with what I think is a Welsh accent that's more higher pitched. And as the name suggests, he's very up in everyone's business.
Hello there, Mr. Grumpy. It's Mr. Nosy. I know you're there because I can see your car in the driveway.
Hi, Mr. Grumpy.
Hello, Mr. Nosy.
What you doing?
They always do everything together. Going out to eat, reading, dancing, watching shows, spying. And the way they help each other with everything is so adorable. Mr. Small's always encouraging and complimenting Mr. Nosy, and Mr. Nosy always helps boost up Mr. Small and carry him around to places he can't reach. And there was this one time where Mr. Nosy had Mr. Small, one of those baby characters, and oh my, they're so good to each other, they're so cute.
Hey, Mr. Small. I know we always come here on a Tuesday for a currant bun. It wouldn't be a Tuesday without one. Maybe this time we could forget about currant buns and have scrambled eggs at the Dilly Dale Diner.
These two are definitely one of my favourites. Any scene they're in are just so wholesome and adorable. From all of the short end of the stickness misery, it's just nice to see two characters be just so great to each other. Did I mention how cute these two are? I remember when I was rewatching this show back in 2018, I shipped them a lot. I'm not sure if I still do because it's just nice to see such an amazing friendship. I don't blame you if you do.
Show him, Mrs. Small. Mimi.
Miss Daredevil is another childhood favourite of mine, and to be honest, she still is. Younger me just loved her daring and no-shame attitude. Or maybe I just wanted her cool rocket boots. Either way, that still stands.
Whoa, Lily!
She's yet another new character made specifically for the show, and she loves doing stunts, taking risks, and just being plain cool.
Well, you know me. I never pass up a chance to launch a rocket in someone else's back garden.
I love her voice. For lack of a better word, it's just daring. She sounds like she's singing away half the time, and she's just so unapologetically her, and I live for that.
We're 400 feet above the Dilly-Dale River. High enough for you?
Miss Daredevil, driving indoors is against the rules!
Rules are meant to be broken. Come on, Mr. Quiet.
Like, she once rode a moped inside a supermarket at top speed, doing loops and crashing it, but still she says,
I'm afraid I don't want the scooter. Just isn't fast enough for me.
It's such a shame that she's only in the show. I wish her and Miss Calamity had their own book so they can be a part of the main franchise characters.
Then why not let the library come to you?
I close my eyes whenever I think.
Mr. Stubborn is one of those characters that, if I knew them in real life, they would be absolutely insufferable. But because it's a cartoon, I absolutely love them. You see, I like characters that are complete dicks, but are also funny so you can't help but laugh at their antics. Don't confuse this with a character just being an arse though. They have to be a dick, but still funny and likeable somehow. And Mr. Stubborn is the epitome of funny and lovable arsehole.
Hello, Mr. Stubborn. Tell us a little something about yourself. No!
Just like Mr. Scatterbrain, he's a gender-bent redesign of Little Miss Stubborn from the books. And boy is he stubborn alright. Once he makes up his mind on something, there's no changing it, no matter how obviously wrong he is.
What instrument is Miss Sunshine playing? She is playing a glockenspiel. That is not a glockenspiel.
Yes, it is! Mr. Bump, did we or did we not plan a picnic for today?
Yes, but it's raining.
So?
Oh, I don't know, Mr. Stubborn. I've been fighting off a cold.
Then clearly you need some fresh air. Let's go!
How many cakes did you say you ate, Mr. Stubborn?
I have never made a cake. You're going to be a good assistant, Mr. Messi. Watch and learn from an expert. Some people think they know everything.
Oh, and that Scottish accent is just a cherry on the top. One of the best and funniest voices in the show. The way his voice actor delivers his lines is just so gold.
Here, thank you for my stylish haircut. Fake, 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 fake!
Will you...
This bowling alley is cheap!
Let me show you how it's done.
And let me show you how someone can collapse from boredom. That's how the game is played, people! You are all wrong and should now be quiet.
I mean, his US voice is fine as well, but no, nothing will top that accent for me, I'm sorry. It's the best when he calls everything cheap.
The customer is always right.
The customer is always cheap. Your boat is cheap. That cuddly toy is cheap. This tent is cheap. Sleep is cheap. This game show is cheap. These lights are cheap. The host is cheap. Your smile is cheap. Shoe ducks. Cheap singing.
The question is Mr. Stubborn genuinely stupid and thinks he's actually right about things? Or does he eventually realise he's wrong but just doesn't want to admit it? I like to think it's a bit of both. It just depends on the situation. There are times where he actually thinks he's in the right. Like, my man tried to define a bear to prove a point. And then there are the times where it finally clicks into his thick head that he is in fact in the wrong.
That boat was not bitten by a shark. I don't have to explain anything. There are no sharks in that water.
You never know what you're going to find in the belly of a shark.
That face tells me you made the wrong decision.
Stubborn, you're a thick...
Also, he may or may not be a furry.
I am not a werewolf.
I love it when he smiles as well. Whether it be just a smug-ass ha-ha I win smile, or when he just genuinely succeeds in something and is actually right. I mean, just look at him, he's so happy.
Ah, I knew you would see it my way.
It makes me sad that we won't see any more of him since he is technically a new character, but I guess he can live in the spirit of Little Miss Stubborn, I guess. It's just not the same though.
How many times do I have to tell you? There is no such thing as aliens. Only sick people go to the doctor.
Another one of my favourites. She's basically that one trope of a character looking all innocent and sweet, but are secretly hiding something sinister or a total smug bitch. Miss Naughty is that smug bitch, and I love her. She got a few elements added to her redesign in the show, like the added hair and blush, which I assume is to make the innocent deception more clear. But just like Miss Magic, I like both book and show Miss Naughty, so I don't mind either way.
You're quite possibly the worst cook in all Dillydale.
I know!
This is how she lures you. She tries to sell you some dodgy product to help you out with a task, or give you a nice looking gift out of nowhere just from the kindness of her heart.
Today, I offer a sale on my giant roach extermination service. Only £20.
But wait, the statue she gave you just exploded goo everywhere? And those cans of corn actually have snails in them. Yeah, that seems about right.
Nice going, Clyde. Keep it up, and you're going to get a treat. Oh, you're so cute. Imagine how surprised they'll be.
Miss Naughty.
Yes, Mr. Pernickety? That's why.
What can I say? She just...
Can't help myself.
That's her shtick, and I love it. She just goes around fucking up things for people and acting all innocent and sweet about it later just because she can. And while it is a treat to see how her pranks go out, they don't always go well for her. In fact, a lot of the time they end up backfiring and blowing back up in her face afterwards, so it's not like she always gets her way.
Oh, why did my goo turn against me?
She's just so fun, and I did say I like my lovable arseholes.
I'm an overgrown celery stick. Menacing giant celery!
Oh, thank you, Miss Naughty.
That's giving me the hump.
Who doesn't love Mr. Grumpy? He is a fan favourite for a reason, and I'm going to explain why he's literally perfection.
I like pineapples too.
His design, perfect. I mean, his book version was already pretty amazing, but they really refined him in the show. The thick unibrow, the more centered nose and pointy hat really amplifies his personality. And he's also blue, and blue's the best.
My intelligence, good looks, and sparkling personality are the envy of Dillydale.
His attitude, perfect. He's a grumpy boy that just wants peace, but seeing how hectic everyone is in Dillydale, finding peace is pretty much impossible. He's so funny to watch and very relatable. There are times where he does show genuine glee and it's amazing.
Crooked cucumbers! Mr. Scatterbrain! You and your bloomin' moon tree seeds!
This phone will change your life. You'll become very popular.
Why would I want that?
Take these.
Now, why would I want Mr. Quiet's pyjama catalogue? Oh, I demand to see the manager, but I will not listen to your cock.
He's basically the Mr. Men Show version of Squidward, but instead of clarinets, it's fishing.
I could have guessed he'd do something like this on the best trout fishing day of the year.
His voice, perfect. He sounds like a grumpy uncle that reminisces on the good old days, and he has the best voice in the show. It's just so iconic. Well, it's iconic to me anyway. Yes, I call things that aren't iconic, and funny. I love how he pronounces my as moi, like M-O-I, and the way he delivers his lines are, just gold.
Hello.
You'd better not have squashed my liver, sausage. Oh, service wasn't like this in my day. I don't know. I think I love this place. You're not a well man, are you?
Well, that really tells you a lot about me when my favourite character changed from Little Miss Sunshine to Mr. Grumpy. But it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make because he is, in fact, perfection. Also, this one quiz I took said I was him, so yeah, thanks for that.
I think someone needs a tickle.
He was the first Mr. Men character ever made, a cheeky little fellow who loves to tickle people for fun or to make them happy. And pretty much nothing has changed in the show. In fact, I feel like they've made him more tickle-craved.
Are you sure you don't want a tickle?
Oh, it can't be worse than what I've been through.
Yay!
Even though the guy clearly has no sense of personal space and boundaries, you can't help but love him because he's such a bean. I mean, it's Mr. Tickle, who doesn't love him? And his Irish accent really helps with this as well.
Parrots, ferrets, and rats named Rob. All love a tickle if I'm doing my job.
Any scene he's in, he'll want to tickle away everything and anyone, no matter how much they decline or how inappropriate the situation is.
We are enjoying the water, letting it tickle our toes.
Did I hear what I think I heard?
He especially likes to tickle Mr. Grumpy. Especially. I can't be the only one to notice a certain tension between them, right?
I'm right with Mr. Grumpy.
Don't even think of
Feel the beat.
I'm feeling something, but it isn't a beat.
Like, they always get paired up in so many scenes where you might start... you might start questioning Mr. Tickle's... I can't. You might start questioning Mr. Tickle's true intentions. like, am I shipping this? I thought I was doing it ironically, but this show keeps on pushing me at my limit. I could make an entire compilation out of Mr. Tickle and Grumpy's shipbait. Yeah, I know they just put them together because opposites attract, and they wanted the high energy guy to be against the grouchy no-no guy, but let me have this, it's funny.
Now, what did I tell you about great big tickle hugs?
Oh, as far as I'm concerned, you can take those tickle hugs and stick them in your...
It has been wonderful knowing you.
Mr. Happy. He's the face of the Mr. Men franchise. If you ask any rando about the Mr. Men, he'd probably be the first one that'll pop up into their minds. But doesn't anyone else think that he acts a little bit unhinged? Like, he's not fully okay? Maybe Mr. Happy really isn't happy at all. You may or may not have noticed, but I've sprinkled a little bit of hints of his true nature. I was really subtle about it. but I'm here to prove that Mr. Happy is, in fact, a psychopath.
No wonder it's called the Surprise Restaurant.
He always speaks in what I can best describe as a TV host voice. It's always exaggerated and forced like a host, which he basically is. But he carries on talking like this in normal conversation. Very unnatural indeed.
Hello, Mr. Stubborn. Well, the time of year when I come in to have my eyesight tested, and you tell me it's perfectly fine. Which it is.
Titanium alloy to be exact.
Well, actually, you're the guest, which is almost as good.
Every day is happy in Dillydale, Mr. Scatterbrain.
He always laughs maniacally and makes strange faces. No one could say anything funny or something could be very wrong, but he just laughs and smiles that damned smile.
Oh, Mr. Happy, stay away from it. They're tricky little fellows.
Ouch! Who knew baby honking turtles had such a grip?
It's as simple as throwing a lever.
You mean this wonderful lever? I do love fruit.
Now there was that one time where he tried to assassinate Miss Sunshine at Forest. You can tell that he's been out to get her for a while. Or that other time where he murdered Mr. Bump and tried to brush it off completely.
That Mr. Bump is a valuable worker.
Yes, he is. Be sure to thank him for me. I have no idea where he went. Goodbye!
But there's one moment that truly shows his insanity. Season 2, Episode 40, Next Door. Mr. Grumpy just wants to enjoy his lunch of bean loaf and TV dinner. But guess who's there to harass him?
Bean loaf, TV dinner. Hey, hey. Yes.
Mr. Happy keeps on bugging him about cake ingredients, and Mr. Grumpy is clearly sick of it. But despite that, he just keeps on going.
Mr. Grumpy, do you think I could borrow a cup of sugar? I'm baking a cake. Thank you for the eggs and milk.
Finally. Yes?
Hello, Mr. Grumpy. It's your neighbor, Mr. Happy. Tell me something. Do you know how long it takes to bake a cake?
even convincing Miss Sunshine to stay away after she offers Grumpy a casserole, because he knows that'll make him happy.
I was making a delicious chili macaroni casserole for dinner, and I made an extra one by mistake, so I thought maybe you'd like to have it.
Well, that's very kind.
There, Miss Sunshine! I promised not to let anything come between him and his bean loaf.
The show wants you to believe that Mr. Happy's just oblivious, but I see past this. The crazy man doesn't feel anything inside, he's just a hollow smiling husk. So he torments Mr. Grumpy on purpose just so he can feel that spark of emotion again. That's why he always screams wonderful. It's a cry for help.
Wonderful!
You're not a well man, are you?
Okay, that's enough. I'm obviously joking here. Mr. Happy isn't a psychopath, and I don't genuinely believe all that. I just thought of clarifying that just in case someone thought I was actually being serious there. But it's not my fault that the voice actors decided to make him talk like a madman. But I'm glad they did, because he is so funny to meme on, and if it weren't for that factor, it would honestly be really boring. I mean, who wants a character that's just all happy-go-lucky all the time, without a nice dark twist, huh? But yeah, that's all for the characters, finally. Now that I'm done talking about the characters, I want to talk about my other opinions surrounding the show. I'm not really sure what to call this section, it's just a cluster of my thoughts, I guess. I know a lot of people would have wanted the show to continue with a third season, and the channel networks to bring them back. I wanted this as well, but then I realised that I think it's better that the show ended while it was still ahead.
What?
There's 52 episodes in season 1 alone, and 104 in total. And to be honest, I have a feeling that if the show did continue, it could have gone through seasonal rot and stopped being as funny. This show is really formulaic, so when you see a setup with a certain characters, it's super easy to guess what's going to happen or what the punchline is a mile away. Any scene with Mr. Fussy will end up with him getting messy. Any scene with Miss Whoops will have her accidents and badly for someone else. Any scene with Mr. Stubborn has him not believing something that's clearly true, etc, etc. They do change things up sometimes, like I'll never forget the scene where Mr. Grumpy tickled Mr. Tickle.
I think I'm going to be sick.
Looks like someone needs a tickle.
But with another 52 episodes, there's a chance that they would have run out of ideas or things to do with the characters and the show would just drag. There's already enough, well, I say duplicates, but they're not really duplicates, they're just episodes with similar themes. Like, there's episodes called Supermarket and Superstore, which I thought I just got the episode name wrong when I was typing it up, but no, they're separate episodes. The Mr. Men show has had its run, and even though it was only in production for over a year, they still aired the show a lot, well, at least in the UK, and it's taken a lot of people's hearts. The milkshake version of the website is somehow still up actually, but it's pretty bare, and nothing will top the original website. I'd actually much prefer a new Mr. Men cartoon entirely with a different writing and comedy style, but still just as and maybe even more funny. The iconic characters would obviously still be there, but they can also add some more book characters that weren't in the show, and original ones as well. Also, imagine Richard Ayoade voicing one of these characters. That would be amazing.
I came here to drink milk and kick ass.
While I do like the voice acting, I have to admit that they sometimes deliver lines weirdly that could have used an extra take.
My driveway's...
The show sometimes has these strange scenes where the characters are dancing to random music. It doesn't really add anything to the episode and it's just kind of fluff. There were some scenes that were cut from the UK version of the show, which is not a problem anymore since someone uploaded them. But if they were going to cut scenes, they should have cut those ones. They're really weird. The animation this show uses is 2D puppet style rigging, which works for what the show is, but it can cause the characters to look a bit stiff and robotic in their movements at times. Like, you can tell which parts have been animated for a particular shot, and then they go straight back into their idle pose or default walk cycle, and they reuse animations quite a lot. You can also sometimes see where the end of the rig is at times, mostly on the hands, but that's just a nitpick, and most of this stuff is more noticeable in early season 1 episodes, but I still feel like I should point it out. Also, doesn't anyone else find it weird how the show has, like, no backgrounds? 80% of the time the characters are just in a void with a single colour and grunge texture. If there is something in the background, it's only things that the characters need to interact with, so it's just kind of awkwardly placed in the colour void. I've noticed that in some later season 2 episodes there's more going on in the background, but most of the time it's just nothing. I've gotten used to it now, but it was pretty distracting when I first rewatched this. Not sure if it bothers anyone else though. I know I've said a few negative things about the show, like yeah, it's pretty formulaic and not everything about it lands, but honestly I don't even care because I love this show so much. I mean, the video wouldn't be this long if I didn't, right? I've said the animation can be a bit stiff, but the facial expressions, oh, they are anything but stiff. They do not hesitate to exaggerate them, and they are gold. One of my favourite things to do by watching this show is take out of context screenshots and let my imagination do the rest. And I know I said the line delivery can be weird at times, but oh my god, the voice acting is like half the reason why the jokes and lines being said are funny. Like, a character could say the most mundane or basic thing, but the way the voice actors deliver it just make it really funny. Here's some of my favourites.
What made you build a treehouse anyway?
Oh, you know, to have a place to think. Alone.
Wait a minute, Mr. Happy. You mean I have to throw something, like with my arm?
No, Mr. Lazy, with your magic powers.
I don't have any magic powers.
Show him who's boss, Mr. Nosy.
A fake spaceship put here as a joke on you. You fell for it.
Oh, well, it's big.
No, but we really know how to tickle.
Try it and you'll be kissing my tractor.
Here I... Oh, Miss Giggles, this isn't funny.
And there's the fact that the show really influenced me artistically and was a part of what got me where I am today. But I don't want this video to get longer than it already is, so I'll save all that sappy crap for another time. All I'll say is that I love this show and I'm so glad for its inclusion in my life. Now, finally on to talking about the other Mr. Men tunes. This won't take us long, don't worry.
Here's a little lesson in trickery. This is going down in history. If you wanna be a...
The Mr. Men and Little Miss 90s cartoon was a French-British co-production. The animation was done in France while the voices were done here. That's why you can see some French-exclusive characters appear in the show. Though, to be honest, I'm not that much of a fan of this adaptation. I find it quite dull since it's more focused on teaching morals rather than seeing funny characters interact or the humour. Maybe it's because I didn't grow up with this one, but I tend to not be the type that acts like everything I watched when I was younger holds up. This is clearly out of my demographic, and no hate to those of you that like it, it's just not for me. Though, I do have to mention this one bit of ironic enjoyment I got from this. That one episode where Mr. Uppity and Grumpy started hating Mr. Perfect for no reason, so they proceed to attempt to run him over, send rapid dogs, and just act like complete cartoon villains for no reason. And the weird voice delivery just it makes it gold.
Leave me alone! What an irritating little nuisance that Mr. Perfect is. He's always so annoyingly happy. Couldn't agree more, Mr. Uppity. You're right, Mr. Grumpy, and I think we're just about the right sort of somebodies to do that something.
Maybe if the show had more ironically funny parts like this, I'd like it more, but it just feels too safe. But yeah, moving on to the even older stuff.
Just like every morning, Mr. Grumpy has woken up in a bad mood. Same old blue sky. How boring. Now look what's happened, and all because of those happy idiots.
It's Mr. Toy. It really is a pantomime.
I love the 70s and 80s series. They're basically just animated versions of each character's book. And yeah, the animation is certainly dated and choppy, but what I love about it is the charm. I'll speak about the 1974 Mr. Men cartoons first. They all start off with a nice calming melody and a funny animation of whatever the character of the episode is, and you just go through the episodes watching their story. There's just something so relaxing and calming about watching these guys going through their lives. Whether it's Mr. Bump trying to find a job that suits him, Mr. Daydream taking some child on an adventure, Mr. Forgetful and Mr. Sneeze just being so adorable, or Mr. Impossible breaking the laws of physics. And there are parts that are pretty funny as well, with or without context, like Mr. Grumpy ripping out his book pages.
I say, laughed Mr. Happy, you're a bad-tempered fellow. And, went on Mr. Happy, bad-tempered fellows need to change their ways. Rubbish.
That surprisingly meta joke where Mr. Small writes a children's book about himself.
And then I'll write a story about it. I'll call it Mr. Small. But children won't want to hear a story all about me. Yes, they will, replied the man. And you did, didn't you?
And, I don't know, the entirety of Mr. Mean's existence. I mean, look at him! Like, what is that design? He's like a stiff blue ruler, and he, owns a lot of money and won't spend any of it because he's a stingy Londoner that lives in a shit house. I don't know why, he's just so funny to me.
Drat, he said, because he didn't like people. Oh dear, oh dear me, please turn my money back into money, please.
And while these cartoons are nice, they aren't for everyone because they might feel a little slow considering there's only one guy doing the voices. And there's only one piece of background music, which is just variations of the main theme. But for me, they're super cozy tunes that I like to go back to every once in a while.
And went into his cottage, deliberately stepping on Mr. Happy's foot as he passed him.
Now, the Mr. Men tunes are sweet. The 1983 Little Miss tunes are where it's at. Yeah, the animation is still dated and stilted, and from a surface level might seem up to the same quality. But there's one thing in the Little Miss cartoons that makes them so memorable and stand out. The music. I'm not sure about you, but I really like to pay attention to music in shows. While I'm not too knowledgeable in music theory, I find that really great music adds to my enjoyment to media, especially if there's good vocal songs. And the Little Miss cartoon just hits you with that amazing music as soon as you start an episode.
Sometimes in sunshine, sometimes in style, sometimes with no time or just with a smile. Little Miss, we're waiting for you. Ready, steady, how do you do?
I love this theme song. It's so catchy, fun and fitting for the show. And the ending themes are super good as well. I love the fiddle in the On With The Show song.
All friends together, the Little Miss and Mr. Man. All friends together, round and round we go.
And the Goodbye song sounds so powerful and nostalgic despite the fact that I only first watched these older tunes in 2018. Even within the show itself, there's background music that fills the dead space that was once there in the Mr. Men tunes. And it's the best when there's a character song for the Little Miss of the episode. My favourite ones are Miss Scatterbrains.
Absolutely, totally, completely and so utterly forgetful, absent-minded little mad at a scatterbrain.
Miss Plumps.
Plump, plump, little Miss Plump, how she loves her lovely food. Plump, plump, little Miss Plump with an appetite for 2 or 3.
And Miss Shies.
Come to a party, come to a dance, come out and play with us, just take a chance. Little Miss Shy, you seem so afraid, try it before it's too late.
Music aside, these tunes, just like the Mr. Men ones, are so cozy and fun. The stories, well, just being the same as their books, are so sweet and funny, and has great moments with or without context. And seeing as there's now a female voice actor to do all the voices for the Little Misses, it feels less samey and more alive when the characters interact. Now, there's the Miss Sunshine episode that has a lot of nostalgia because of her book. The Miss BOSSY and Trouble episodes are funny because of all the inside jokes and how memeable they are.
Shut up! Stop that frightful noise! Shut up!
How dare you call me Pudding Face?
Mr. Small went round and told Mr. Tickle that I called him Pudding Face and I didn't. Then Mr. Small told Mr. Bump that I called him Necklet and I didn't.
Miss Splendid is such a pompous bitch that I hate and love at the same time. And Miss Naughty's just a cheeky little bugger.
Off his head with a walking stick. My hat!
But my favourite one has to be Miss Shies. She gets invited to Mr. Funny's party and is having a breakdown on whether she wants to go or not. She wants to, but she's just so shy. Eventually Mr. Funny does talk her into going and she actually enjoys herself. Everyone there is accepting her and it's just so cute and wholesome. She also meets Mr. Quiet there, who says he was also once shy and they're just so cute together. It's too bad that he dies in the end though.
And then he fainted.
It's such a shame that the Little Miss series only got 13 episodes compared to the Mr. Men's 28. I would have loved to see Miss Giggles, Chatterboxes and Lucky's stories adapted like this. But that's about all I have to say for the Little Miss tunes. But I want to talk about some lost media. Back in the 80s when the show was airing, they would air one Little Miss cartoon and one Mr. Men tune right after it. But instead of the usual simple flute melody, they'll play a completely different song called Can't You See the Mr. Men Are Everywhere, which is basically the Mr. Men equivalent of the Little Miss theme. They also changed up the soundtrack so it's less silent and more like the superior Little Miss show. But for some reason it's near impossible to find footage of this version of Mr. Men. The only full episode I found up so far is Mr. Forgetfuls, but the audio is really quiet. It's not much, but I think it's a cool piece of trivia, and I just find lost media interesting. You'll get to hear the song later. Oh wow, this hectic long mess of a video is finally over. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it's a lot to take in, but this franchise means so much to me, and I just wanted to put all my thoughts out there at once, and I just so happen to have so much to say. I do have one more thing I'd like to play before the video truly ends, which you'll see in a bit, but for now all I have to say is, thank you to all of those that watched this far into the video, thank you to the Mr. Men Show community back in 2018, thank you to Roger and Adam Hargreaves for creating this amazing franchise, and thank you Mr. Men for changing my life. Happy 50th anniversary.
Mr. This and Mr. That are dropping by for a friendly chat to show you round the Mr. World. Who knows when you're gonna meet that funny little fella with the small round feet? Don't you know they're all about you? Climb down, sit down, pull up a chair. Can't you see the Mr. Men are everywhere? You must not miss your friends, the Mr. Men.
You're not a well man, are you?